Human immortality, why the science is speeding up, and why death still wins for now. Human immortality used to live in myths, religion, and science fiction. Now it sits uncomfortably close to real laboratories and real venture money. In recent weeks, researchers have published fresh work on pathways linked to lifespan in simple organisms, while biotech firms have pointed to early clinical signals in drugs aimed at inflammation and age-linked decline. That does not mean humans are about to become immortal. It does mean the field is shifting. The big change is that anti-aging is being pulled out of slogans and into testable claims, measurable biomarkers, defined mechanisms, and clinical trial endpoints. This piece looks at what immortality would actually require, what today's research might realistically deliver, and why even dramatic life extension would create political, economic, and cultural shockwaves. The story turns on whether aging is a single master, switch humans can turn off, or 1,000 small failures that can only be managed, not defeated. Key points. Human immortality has two different meanings: stopping aging inside the body and surviving indefinitely despite accidents, infections, and violence. The first is hard. The second is almost certainly harder. What's changing now is the method. More work is moving toward measurable biological aging markers and clearer mechanisms, not just feeling younger. Some recent findings still come from short-lived models, like yeast or mice, which can reveal useful biology, but often fail to translate cleanly to humans. Early-stage drug development in longevity is increasingly framed as treating specific age-driven diseases, inflammation, fibrosis, metabolic decline, rather than curing aging outright. Even if science slows aging, access and governance will decide outcomes. Who gets extra decades? Who pays? And what happens to jobs, pensions, and power? The most plausible future is not immortality, but longer health span. More years with strength, mobility, and cognitive function, followed by a shorter period of decline. Background: what human immortality would require. Aging is not one thing. It is a layered collapse. DNA damage that accumulates, cells that stop dividing but do not die, immune systems that misfire, proteins that fold wrong, mitochondria that falter, tissues that scar, and blood vessels that stiffen. Each layer feeds the next. To reach biological immortality, a person would need to keep tissues functioning at something like a youthful baseline indefinitely. That implies solving multiple problems at once: cancer risk, immune aging, chronic inflammation, organ fibrosis, neurodegeneration, and the slow loss of regenerative capacity. Then there is practical immortality. Even if a person never aged, they could still die from trauma, infection, or random bad luck. Over a long enough timeline, risk stacks up. A world with no aging would still need extraordinary safety, medicine, and stability for anyone to survive forever. So when people ask if humans will become immortal, the honest answer depends on which immortality they mean. Analysis: political and geopolitical dimensions. If meaningful life extension arrives, it will not land like a new phone. It will land like a new form of power. Governments would face immediate pressure to regulate claims, control access, and prevent outright fraud. Longevity medicine also overlaps with sensitive technologies, gene delivery, cell engineering, and advanced biometrics. That raises national security questions about dual-use science and uneven global access. There's also a quieter geopolitical effect: demographic leverage. Countries that can keep working-age populations healthy for longer gain productivity, military readiness, and fiscal breathing room. Countries that cannot may face sharper pension stress, slower growth, and rising instability. In that world, anti-aging stops being lifestyle chatter and becomes strategic policy, economic, and market impact. In the near term, the money is in treating age-linked diseases better, not in making humans immortal. That is why many longevity companies describe their work in the language of specific conditions: metabolic disease, immune dysfunction, muscle loss, and chronic inflammation. The market impact of real health span gains would be massive. If people stay healthier into their 70s and 80s, retirement ages and career paths would shift. Insurance pricing would change. Housing chains would change. So would inheritance patterns, because wealth would stay concentrated in older hands for longer. But the biggest economic constraint is time. Aging trials are slow and expensive because the outcomes that matter take years to observe. That pushes the field toward proxies, biological aging clocks based on blood markers or epigenetic patterns. Those tools are improving, but they are still not the same as proving longer, healthier human lives at scale. Social and cultural fallout. Even modest life extension could fracture society if access is unequal. If the wealthy can buy extra decades of vitality, the gap stops being about comfort and becomes about time itself. That would intensify existing distrust in institutions and create new forms of resentment, not only who has money, but who gets more life. There is also a psychological twist. Many people say they want to live forever, but what they really want is not endless time. They want to avoid a long decline. They want to stay capable. They want to stay themselves. A future where bodies last longer, but minds do not, or where memory and identity are fragile, would not feel like a victory. It would feel like a trap. And culture would change. Family structures, relationships, and parenthood would all be renegotiated if middle age stretches to 80. Technological and security implications. Most near-term anti-aging technology is not about replacing the body. It is about modifying biology, clearing senescent cells, tuning inflammation, improving metabolic pathways, or partially resetting gene expression patterns to act more youthful. That last idea, partial cellular reprogramming, captures the promise and the danger. If cells can be pushed back toward youth, the upside is obvious. The downside is also obvious: loss of cell identity, organ dysfunction, and cancer-like growth if control is imperfect. This is a field where small errors can be catastrophic. Then there is digital immortality, the idea that a person could be preserved as data. Today, that mostly means recordings, writing, and AI mimicry of a voice or style. It is not survival. It is an echo. The security risks here are immediate: fraud, identity theft, and manipulation. Long before any credible claim of mind uploading exists, what most coverage misses, the real bottleneck, is not one miracle therapy. It is coordination. Aging is distributed across organs, cell types, and feedback loops. A therapy that helps the liver might harm the immune system. A therapy that boosts regeneration might raise cancer risk. A therapy that reduces inflammation might weaken infection response. Fixing aging is less like repairing a cracked screen and more like tuning a jet engine while it is mid-flight. The other blind spot is measurement. If a trial claims it reversed biological age, the decisive question is simple. Did people function better in ways that matter? And did it last? Better grip strength, fewer falls, sharper cognition, lower frailty, fewer hospitalizations. Not just prettier biomarkers. Without that, immortality remains a story that sells, not a future that arrives. Why this matters? In the short term, the stakes are about trust and harm. Longevity hype can drive people toward unproven treatments, bad clinics, and expensive regimens that do little. Clear standards, honest endpoints, and transparent safety data matter now. In the long term, the stakes are structural. If health span extends meaningfully, societies will have to redesign retirement, workforce policy, and healthcare financing. Families will plan differently. Politics will tilt toward whoever can promise time and health. The next concrete things to watch are not declarations of immortality. They are early human trials designed around specific age-linked diseases, plus the regulatory fights over what counts as treating aging versus treating a disease. Real-world impact. A warehouse manager in Ohio sees the first wave as workplace policy, not science. If older workers can stay physically capable longer, promotions slow down, retraining becomes constant, and career ladders turn into career marathons. A nurse in London feels the pressure in hospitals first. If people live longer, but still spend years in frailty, the burden grows. If health span improves, the burden might shrink. The difference is everything, and it will shape public opinion fast. A small business owner in Seoul watches insurance and lending tighten around age risk. If biomarkers become mainstream, people may be priced not just by age, but by measured biological condition. That could reward prevention, or it could become a new kind of discrimination. A factory worker in northern Mexico sees the consumer side. Supplements, tests, and clinics flood the market long before definitive proof. It becomes harder to tell medicine from marketing, especially when hope is the product. Conclusion: humans are unlikely to become immortal in the strict practical sense of living forever. Too many risks sit outside biology, and too many failure modes exist inside it. But the more important question may be narrower and closer. Can medicine stretch health, not just years? If the next generation of therapies can delay frailty and keep bodies and minds functioning longer, the world will still change dramatically, even without immortality. The fork in the road is between careful science with hard endpoints and a gold rush powered by weak evidence and loud claims. The signs to watch are straightforward, well-designed trials, durable, functional improvements, and safety profiles that hold up over time. That is how the story will start to break toward genuine progress, or toward another cycle of promise outrunning proof.